Thank you so much for joining us today, everyone. We have with us Dr. Animesh Upadhyay, who's currently a PGY1 Obstetrics and Gynecology resident. Previously, he was a postdoctoral research fellow at Yale Cancer Center in the Department of OBGYN and Reproductive Sciences. His research involved patient cell lines with uterine cancer and Lynch syndrome with mismatch repair mutations. He received his MD from Government Medical College, Kolhapur, India. And after completing his USMLE exams, he joined Yale in 2021. Dr. Upadhyay believes in the power of mentorship. Effective mentoring can help aspiring medical professionals who will follow in his footsteps. And we're very glad to have him here with us to guide young minds. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out the time. And I think we can start with your session. Thank you so much. And then,
Awesome.
yes, thank you.
Hi. Thank you so much, Akshita. I want to just thank even Zishan that he could help me, help me come over here today because this is really important for all of us. And yeah, so as you mentioned that my introduction, it's thank you for that. It's really humbling. But I'm not an MD from India. I'm just an MBBS, like all of us from GMC Kolhapur, and then I came over here to do my things. So honestly, this journey has been really, really big, and it's tough to put in 30 minutes in that time. But I'm going to try my best to just highlight the things that have been with me. So just like going back to the end. So now I'm at Yale, which is a great program. I finished my prelim year last year. So I'm a categorical PGY1 this year at Yale, which is awesome for me, honestly. It was a big, tough journey. But I would say that, yeah, I'm a first year OBGYN resident at Yale, and I matched prelim last year. I matched this year once again. And now I'm just like trying to get efficient with my work over here as an OBGYN resident, but it is a little taxing sometimes because it's a surgical specialty, and they usually expect more from IMG applicants, to be honest. I guess in any program, but yeah, it just feels heavy sometimes. Anyways, now going back to my journey. So basically, why of my USMLE? Like, why did I choose to do USMLE? It's because basically I didn't know about USMLE when I was in my second year of medical school. And I remember like my friends that time, like thinking about different exams, maybe PLAB, maybe USMLE. And I just like solved a few sample questions. And the questions that time just like called for me because it's like I loved the way they ask questions as cases, as more in depth versus what we had in NEET PG. Nothing against the NEET PG exam, but I didn't like it personally. So that was the first thing I started to think about. Like, okay, maybe if I like this exam pattern, I want to do it maybe eventually someday. Like a young, naive medical student, I had no idea what I want to get into later on, how your assembly is going to be, how tough it'll be compared to other exams out there. So, but anyways, I just chose to prepare for your assembly that time because why not? I'm already preparing for NEET. I'm already preparing for USMLE. It's gonna be okay, right? So I did that, and eventually I started like liking it more and more. And the more I searched about things, the more I heard more about stories of people matching into bigger programs or going to the US for jobs and having a nice lifestyle compared to what's happening in India. I was like, this could be, my dream. And then this one small tidbit that my mom, she went to some Jyotishi back in the day, like long ago, and they were like, yeah, someday your kid will go to the US. And I'm like, okay, so my mom believed that's going to happen for me. And then she was fully supporting me throughout this journey because you need people to support you. It's a really tough process, as everybody over here knows.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's why I chose USMLE that time. And then I just began this whole process of finding people, electives, observerships. And the never-ending DMs in my Instagram is just about that, like how to find somebody for stuff, like in general. So I actually gave my step one just after finishing med school. But in my intern year and my final year of MBBS, I went for electives that time. And at that moment of time, I didn't know what I want to do, but it was mostly IM because I never heard anybody that time go into any other field but IM. And during that time, like I would say like 6 years ago, 5 years ago, the thing was that IMGs match mostly into IM, psychiatry, family medicine, and pathology. Things have changed now, but these are the top four branches for IMGs back in the day. So we just went with that, and it's interesting. I love endo, I love GI, so why not, right? So I went with that, and I found three electives that time. And that time it was a bit easier than these days to like apply to colleges, their websites, and ask for electives, and you will just get in first come first basis, right? So did that. I got like 3 months at Mount Sinai. That was pretty good. One of the main hospital campuses like in New York City, and the other two were a smaller campus like St. Luke's Hospital, which is a great place. I did my sub-I over there in medicine, which was very, very intense because as a sub-I, you actually work just like a resident. So I remember like doing like 15-hour calls with the team, 12-hour calls, coming on the weekend. So it was pretty intense, honestly.
Mm.
But it was very good because it gave me real life experience on how to be a resident, what do they expect from us as IMGs,
Mm.
and all those other things. Uh, so yeah, I got three electives that time. I also got one elective after that in Memorial Sloan Kettering in breast oncology. That was also through just asking people and emailing people like nonstop at the program, like, please give me a chance. I'm over here in the US. I can just do it, whatever it is. And I got a chance to be there as well. So that was good. So four electives in total, and then just I came back to India. Now, what people don't know about me is that when I came from the US to India, that was like, I think so in my intern year around August or something like that, in September. And I was that time diagnosed with a bone tumor, and was pretty shocking. I got a giant cell tumor of my knee, so I had to undergo surgery. I had an autograft placed from my hip to my knee, so I had like a very long recovery course. I spent like 3.5, 4 months not able to walk. I had to like use a walker and all. So that pushed my journey even a little bit further in the process. So I finished my medical school 4 months after my class passed my like, medical school that time. So that was something that was a little like annoying because I couldn't walk, I couldn't study properly, I was in pain, I was taking opioids, so it was pretty intense. But luckily it was benign, and I have to just I went through like even today I have to at least do 3 to 4 X-rays of my knee every single year for a follow-up because GCT is a very highly like recurrent tumor. And that's why whenever I go to India, I get my scans done. I do my MRI with CT, MRI with contrast for my knee, and all those things with like proper PT as well for my knee joint. So long story short, that pushed my journey by a little bit, which is fine. Everybody is like has their own process, but it was a little upsetting because seeing my friends go ahead and that competition and my friends leaving my like med school, me being alone was a bit heavy, honestly, that time. But anyways, it happened, and now I'm here. Uh, After those 3, 4 months of electives and me being in India for 4 months, not able to walk and stuff, I finished medical school. I gave my step one as soon as I finished medical school, like prep for at least 3 to 4 months, and I gave step one. And at that time, it was just the ending of the pass fail era, like the starting of pass fail era actually. And after my exam, the next week onwards, it became pass and fail. I'm like, great. So I had a score, and I would say 250s was my like low 250s was my step one score. After that, I went for a preparation for step two CK. Took almost 5 months to 4 months that range to give my CK exam, and I finished that in roughly 4 months as I mentioned. And by end of September, October, I guess, or early November, I was done with all my exams. I was tired as hell, and I wanted to have some break for myself. So I was just having at least 2 months of vacation. And then from January, I got a job in India. I was working as a house officer for at least 8 months that year, with also having jobs on the side. I was doing telehealth. I was doing working in a government hospital and trying to keep myself busy and just finish my bond stuff that I had that time. So I did that, and so the moment I finished my CK exam, that was the time I started emailing people for research positions over here. Because honestly, it is extremely hard to find the right person for you. And it was tough that time because there was COVID. So everybody came with the thought process that, maybe he's coming from a third world country, where COVID is rampant over there. So they won't take me.
Yeah.
and it's a big hassle for them to be okay with taking an IMG that time for research. So I remember, like, I had my Excel sheet prepared. I had emailed 350 programs, and amongst those 350 people, I got like only 11 emails in response. Other people didn't even like respond back to me, so which is fine, I guess. So after those 11 emails, I got like four interviews, and after the four interviews, they were from Mayo, Brigham's, Yale, and I guess something. I don't remember the fourth one. It's 3 years ago, so I don't remember. But also one of the places, and so these places then had interviews, and they had like follow-up interviews. And I just chose Yale because one of my friends was over here before me at one of the labs over here, and he liked it. Plus, I have friends in Boston and New York City, so it's pretty close by to these places. So why not? That. So plus cheaper as well. Like cost of living is a little cheaper over here than other places, so that's why. So came over here. So I came over here in 21 of August, and I spent 1.5 years, roughly, little less than that, in research. And my research primarily was bench research, as people know as lab research. So I was working with cells, tissues, animal models, some biostats, and all those things. So me and my PI were alone the whole time and just working on like some stuff. And my area basically was focusing on MLH1, or like basically mismatch repair protein mutations in serous endometrial carcinoma, which is a very rare subtype of the cancer of the uterus. And it just, I was told that people who have this type of cancer, they almost always die. And that's why this area needs more research. And that's what I was doing. And we had an amazing success with our work. It's still in the works right now. Haven't published it yet. We're still working on some pathways, but it was pretty good. But again, the main point of the story is that finding research mentors is extremely hard. There is no other shortcut of finding people out there for research. You have to cold email. As I know, it sounds extremely painful, but you have to cold email people all the time, and it's annoying. It makes you feel defeated because you email so many people every single day, and barely people reply.
Mm.
And because either I now know, working in the system, that people are busy, but they should have replied at least once, a yes or a no, but they don't because they don't have spots for us over here.
Mm.
So what I would recommend people doing, as a piece of advice, now being on the other side, is that you first focus on the programs, and this is for everybody, not for OBGYN, for everybody. You email programs that are university first of all, because they have a med school with a hospital, they have a
Mm.
bigger center. A bigger center means a bigger lab, also multiple labs. So you just go on Google, you just find like top, or just go on Frida, and you just choose a area on the map, like maybe East Coast, and you put the filters as programs that are having university programs with a med school. As soon as you find them, you just go to each of their websites, and you find a labs or a research section on their website. As soon as you go over there, you will definitely find people with labs who are MD PhDs, who are PhDs, who are MDs, and all those things. And you email their coordinators, and you also email the PIs over there. So, for example, there's one lab over here in OBGYN oncology. Dr. Santine, one of the guys over here, nice guy, has a very big lab, has multiple PIs within his lab. So one would email all of them, also him, for asking for a position over here, like a job over here. So this is how I would recommend people going these days. And again, sadly, there is no alternative. You have to do this. There's no other chance of getting into a position for research without doing all the grit, all the scut work to get there. But yeah, that's what I would recommend, finding places. But yeah, the thing is, you'll have a long list in the end of all of this, and you'll be extremely tired. But just, like I would say, divide your emails every single day. I would say like 10 a day maybe,
Mm.
and 10 a day for like 5 days is a lot of emails. 50 emails like in a week, which is a lot of chances. So literally within like 4 weeks, you'll be covering the entire US, because you will mostly apply to bigger programs. There are barely any programs that are this large with a lab and stuff. So you'll be easily covering all of them in that time. So just a month, emailing every single day, 10 emails a day, every single day for 5 days times four, and you'll be at a good position to ask for help. And now about the content of those emails. What would you actually like, write over there? It has to be very brief. It can't be long because people over there don't have the time to read those things. I would recommend one introduction about who you are, your step scores, if you have given steps or not, your previous background in research, not what you have worked on exactly, but just like, I've done one RCT, one case report, a few case reports, all those things in briefly. And the next thing that you would mention is that my interest lies in IM, OBGYN, etc. And I found your work very interesting, very intriguing. So, and I found this paper of yours, and then you quote that paper in the email, that in brackets, and this paper of yours was very interesting. And that's why I would want you to be my mentor and guide me for any potential projects you're working on right now. And I would love to be a part of your team. And thank you so much. Looking for a response. Have a great day. Regards, best, so and so. Bye. That's it. So you have to just like form a very small email of what you want from them, and don't mention anything about the money or the visa at that time. First, just show genuine interest, and once they respond with the positive, you mention like, hey, thank you for the response. Sorry, response. I would love to work with you, but I would need a visa. And is this a paid or a non-unpaid position, like that? So you dive into those important details later on, not at first. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's actually kind of dry and hot over here today. Feeling like it's like, yeah, sorry.
But it's
Uh, so yeah, as I was saying that you just talk about those important things
mm,
after you have finished, the first primary email draft. So yeah, this is actually one of the most important questions that people ask me on DMs or on my emails all the time. So I
mm,
hope this helps people, like what to draft and how to send and when to send. I would say recommend even the smallest of things, like emailing them when they're sleeping will be missed by them. So I would recommend emailing any like, people over here after 7 p.m. in India, if you're in the IST time zone. So after 7 p.m. and before like 6 in the morning is a good time for you to email them. Otherwise, they'll miss it and they won't see it because they get like I honestly as a resident, I get like 15 emails a day. So I definitely miss emails all the time, just like my seniors and my attendings over here. So always email at that time in the morning. So that'll definitely help your case. Then after finishing this part, I think I can just talk about my step three. So I gave step three after, or actually while I was working in the lab over here, because there's this weird expectation that if you are applying for a surgical specialty,
mm,
uh, in the US, you need to finish your step three, which is bizarre because the ideal recommendation on the websites mentioned you can finish it until your second year of residency. So you
mm,
have 2 years after you match, which people do who are in IM. But if you are the one who's applying for any surgical specialty or anything that's competitive, I would recommend highly to give a step three before you match or before you apply. It will definitely increase the chances, even by a little. And we want that. We want the extra push for in our application to be a better or like be a better applicant than other people. So I would recommend giving step three before you apply. If you can, if not, that's totally fine. I gave it before. I applied in September when the application is closed. I gave my step three in August, a month before, and I got my report before that, and I could submit my step three marks as well. So yeah, while I was working in the lab, I was preparing for my step three the entire year. It took like a 1 year Q bank. So I mean like 10 questions every single day because honestly, at that time I was learning how to work in the lab as well, like Western blots, ELISAs, PCRs, and all those things while studying. Was a little difficult at first, but then I got used to it, and then I just gave my exam in the end. And I got a decent score. I passed the exam. That's more important. Honestly, step three it's not important at all. It's only for visa purposes and just an eligibility that this person has finished an exam and he's eligible to work over here. That's it. So nobody cares about the score, but just finishing it up because it will be seen that this person is free of all the exams. So
mm,
he or she won't take extra time off from residency to
mm,
take the exam like that, and focus more on clinical work. So that's what they think in their mind. It's kind of funny once you're in the system, you know exactly what people think about us from their perspective. And so I would recommend giving step three before you apply. And I think I can just answer these questions in the end. I can see in the
Yes,
chat,
yes.
but yeah.
We can
But
have,
yeah, so yeah, step
yeah.
three. Exactly. Step three before the exams will, sorry, before the application will definitely help you. And what else? Yeah, I just gave my step three, finished it, applied, and then how to select your programs. So I am not sure about internal medicine. I'll just talk about OBGYN first, and then like maybe I have my friends' examples I can talk about. Again, as any other specialty, it's very competitive for IMGs to get anywhere. So you apply extremely broadly. So there are some 280 programs in the US in OBGYN. Out of 280, there are like barely 150, 140 programs that take IMG, that even consider IMGs. So I applied to all of them. I did my own homework and I literally spent like 3 months formulating my own Excel sheet where I found that which programs for the past 5 to 10 years have ever had an IMG in them.
Hmm.
Sorry. So so the thing is, after curating my emails, sorry, my Excel sheet, I saw programs that have ever taken IMGs or not, and based on that data, I just made my list like which program needs to be applied to first and which state are they in. And that took a lot of time because going through each program's website and their past residents and seeing their names and like are they Indian, are they South Asian, are they IMGs, like that was a bit taxing. But I finally found my own list and it was based on university, like three sheets in my Excel sheet, university, affiliated and community programs. So I applied to all the programs that were community because they have easier chance of matching into. And maybe I would say half of the programs were affiliated and half were only the ones with a med school, a university program. So that. And once I made my list, as soon as ERAS just started, I knew my colleges where to apply. And in the end, I was applying to 170 of them, which is a big number for OBGYN. And nobody in the US who are the US applicants, they're like shocked when I tell them like 170. They're like this, like, how is it possible? You spent so much of money applying for OBGYN. I'm like, yeah, that's the risk that we take as an IMG.
Hmm.
Because on the other hand, they applied to like just 30 programs, 25 programs tops. So compared to them, I'm like, three times more like in application cycle like that. So that happened. So I applied for the 170 programs after I made my list. For I remember my friends applied to at least 320 programs. That's the number I was given by them that time. So, but it's a very large number and also like too much of money. But that's what people apply to when they apply to IM because IM has so many programs. Like just as a reference point, IM has 11,000 positions this like last year, and OBGYN has only 1.5K positions. So we're literally like almost like 10 times or like 9 times shorter than IM programs. Even over here at Yale, they only hire 8 people every year and only one of them is an IMG. So it's like very few. And the thing is, only 2.3% of people match last year in OBGYN who are IMGs across the country. So it's a very, very small number for people who are applying for OBGYN these days who are IMGs and who match into it. So it's kind of like daunting, but don't let the numbers scare you. You follow what you want, right? That's fine. So well, actually digresses me towards one point that why did I choose OBGYN from IM? Because if you remember, I told you that I only applied to IM electives, right? And never OBGYN. So while I was working in the lab, I tried to email people, obviously, again, to like shadow with them or do an observership in the hospital at Yale and also other places in the US. So I went to Oklahoma for my observership in OBGYN, one at Yale and one at a hospital close to Yale over here called as I think it's a Yale hospital itself, but with I think it's a mixture of community plus Yale affiliation. So I emailed people over there for a chance, and they gave it to me at Bridgeport Hospital. That's the name of the hospital. Yeah. So I went over there. So I got three letters also. I would say letter, but three letters from people from there who were mentoring me through my observerships, and so that happened. And I remember like being in the final year of my medical school in India. Uh, we spent like 2 months in OBGYN, right? Everybody knows that we spent 2 months in OBGYN, surgery and internal medicine. And I found my calling when I was working on OB, and like 11 babies a day for 2 months straight, so much of work, the chaos and the fatigue, and just so painful. But I love that chaos. I love that process of delivering babies, and also like it's a cool mix of surgery and medicine. So I'm
Mm.
like, I love that. Plus, like everybody knows that everybody's moms, they remember their OB providers from back in the day. Like I know my mom telling me the story of how she remembers her OBGYN from like back in the day, 30 years ago, and how she still remembers him and how she loved his care so much. So being an OBGYN, I have that ability to be in somebody's story and to impact their life in such deep level that
Mm.
someday this baby will know me. Like, oh yeah, you were at Yale, born at Yale by some immigrant Indian doctor over there.
Mm.
And because it's kind of cool because they take photos over here that they ask my name multiple times, so they know me. And being a part of the story with the whole family is so rewarding. And like this is the best job I've ever done in my life. So,
Mm.
so that plus like cool surgery, like hysterectomy, C-sections all the time. As an intern over here, as a first resident, I've done 80, 85 C-sections already, like
Wow.
as a primary surgeon. And it's kind of funny because you would think that people in India do it earlier on, but they don't. Like my friends who are all OBGYNs in India from my med school only do it as a second year. They
Yeah.
only assist the first year. Now over here, I'm doing everything by myself. I'm doing like hysteroscopies, hysterectomies. There's no shade to OBGYNs in India. They are amazing people, they're amazing, amazing physicians. But
Mm.
it's just like interesting to see how different training we are
Mm.
getting from different countries, right? That's what I want to point. But yeah, so back to the basics. So I found my calling in my med school, like in my intern year, and that's why I was like, I will just give my best, spend how much ever years it takes to go into this field because any surgical field needs that extra time. It is so scary to have a very uncertain path that what if this doesn't work out? What if I do all these things and I don't match? Which happens, which actually happens. I am one of the few success stories that you will listen, but there are so many voices that are silent because they didn't match.
Mm.
So it's a very scary place to be, and it is daunting to just go in head on with no other plan. Honestly, in my case, I was scared because I had no plan B. I literally applied to just IM, sorry,
Okay.
just OBGYN and
Mm.
no IM. So normally people who apply to these branches, they apply to IM as a backup. I
Mm.
didn't. I'm like, I cannot see myself being even remotely happy doing internal medicine. I cannot. I just cannot. I don't like that field. It's not meant for me. I want to do more procedures, and I want to have a nice patient population because it's so cute to have babies. Why not? So I just chose OBGYN. I didn't apply anywhere else, and that was very scary, a very bad move if I think about in my past. But it worked out, so I can be happy. But it is scary. So all the people I've met who are applying the last year and before that, they all have IM as backup.
Mm.
So that happens. But it was, I guess it's a good decision. But always have a plan B because if it doesn't work out, you rather than spending one more year applying, matching it to something else is totally fine. And then you can find your niche in that once you grow as a resident in that field. So a backup is pretty important.
Mm.
Uh, I did that. So yeah, so that's why I got my letters from like these people and applied to OB only, and it finally worked out. As you know, I'm here. But yeah, so I was talking about my program list and then applying. In the end, when I chose my programs, I ranked. So after I got the interviews, I got like 6 interviews in the end. After 170 program when I applied to, it's a very scary number because it seems really less. I had a decent application, but still I got like the 6 programs, which is I guess okay that time. And amongst the 6, I ranked them in a weird way. So I believe in abortion care completely. I
Okay.
want to be an abortionist as well. I'm already doing abortions as a first year resident at Yale. So I don't want to go to a program that's like, a red state that we know, blue and red
Mm.
states. So I am in a blue state, thankfully. But red states have illegal abortion, like weird laws over there, as you know, what's happening in the US.
Mm.
So I don't want to go there. And I had like at least 3 interviews from red states. And I'm like, will I be happy to not provide like abortion care? Because then if I don't do that in my training, I will never learn. I have to spend at least a year as a fellowship to learn those things in the end. So I'm
Mm.
like, why? So in the end, I ranked them in the bottom, even though they were like great programs, very academic, very strong programs, bigger
Mm.
programs. But I'm like, no, I cannot do that. I want to know how to provide abortion care because it's so important, and it's obviously like the women's choice,
Mm.
and we're all working for their sake, right? That's why. So I
Mm.
just chose that list. Top three would be blue states, and the bottom three were like red states. So like
Okay.
that. But yeah, I ranked them properly, and then let's talk about interviews. So like quickly, I would say. So interviews basically, it's kind of funny because I remember me being really, really scared the first time when I had the interview, and that was luckily not with Yale. Yale was like in January, and it starts in like October. So luckily, I've done all my interviews, and Yale was my last interview, which is great. So yeah, so I remember like having my talking points. They normally ask you firstly like what do you do? Who are you? What's your interest? And all those things.
Mm.
And after that, they might ask you like firstly why OBGYN, and so you have to have your answer ready for like why your specialty, like why do you want to be an IM person? And you would be shocked when people give responses. It's so generic that the people on the other side of the camera won't like that answer, honestly. So you have to come up with something very catchy and
Mm.
something very emotional, also that means something to you. I know it's difficult for people to just like you can have a story for everything in life, right? So it is difficult to come up with stories, but I would say still work on it and come up with stories that you can show on that day. And even if it's like slightly away from the truth, it's fine. Nobody cares. It needs to convince them and that you want to come to IM or OBGYN or any other specialty because you have a calling for that field.
Mm.
So I said those things, and they ask you nothing about medicine. They ask you about everything else but medicine and OBGYN in my case. They ask you like your interests, what do you do after work, your hobbies. They want to see that the main thing is that are you a good team player? Are you a chill person? Because imagine like yourself, Akshita, that if you're working in a hospital somewhere and your colleagues are not great, they're like, they're like this studying all the time, they're not opening up, they're very like shy, they don't talk to people,
Mm.
and they're not have like very zero interest,
Mm.
very like I would say not boring, but not matching your energy level, okay, like that. So it's so difficult to work with these colleagues the entire 4 years.
Mm.
So they look for that, and then they won't take you because if you give off any different vibe, then they won't take you. It has to meet their requirement. How? Because you will be seen by the PD, the chair, the APD, and then the chief and the third residents. So they know that how is this one person come into our program and be a good team player or not. So
Mm.
they look for team player abilities and on somebody who's social. You don't need to be like extrovert or like or being an introvert is a crime, but just a little interesting and also like academically strong. So these two things are tough to go hand in hand. But if they do, they will definitely consider you really highly because I was a part of this year's match process as well, and I saw how they think about applicants from the other side. So they look for the vibe and they look for how you are as a person. Are you a nice person? Do you give off nice vibes? Do you have a good hobby? All those things. Do you have family over here? All those things. So it's really important to be very holistic. And I would just say that just be yourself. I know
Mm.
it sounds very cliche, but I would recommend just don't try to be someone else that you're not.
Mm.
And they can pick up. People can pick up through your body language that you're trying to be somebody else.
Mm.
Just being yourself is very, very important. And that's what I felt. And now I would go back and focus on what did I speak about in my interviews and how did I make my ALS application. So, so yeah, everybody does the work for the steps. That's done. For
Mm.
research, maybe you have some papers that are not. That's fine as well. What you can actually add on is voluntary services and work experiences. So even working in your hospital as an intern is a work experience.
Mm.
Even working doing a bond or the house officer job is a work experience.
Mm.
Anywhere where you have been paid or you have given like enough hours in a week is a work experience. So
Mm.
you should put all those things in your ERAS application and voluntary services. So I honestly, when I was working at the lab over here, I was a part of a free clinic over here for people who are uninsured or
Mm.
who are Hispanic population, also Afghani refugees as well.
Mm.
So that came under voluntary services. It's an unpaid position, so it has to be voluntary. And then I was working at a soup kitchen over here, trying to help people with food and giving them food or soups every other weekend. That came into my voluntary services. I was linked to a program over here that's called as American Cancer Network, ACN.
Mm.
And I was working with anti-smoking campaigns over here, even though it's not part of OBGYN.
Mm.
I believe in anti-smoking a lot. I hate smoking myself, and people are dying of like cancer of the lungs very fast every year because of smoking. And one of my friends, he had his dad had an episode of lung cancer with smoking. So
Mm.
I used that as motivation to pursue this in a different way. And it was a very different job. Honestly, these voluntary services help you a lot because I was a legal or I would say an advocate of anti-smoking campaign. So I was actually calling all the policymakers in the state and like, hey, we want money, we have this idea, can you fund us? Can you help us? So that was my job. So being on the forefront, knowing what's happening in the community was so good because I became a leader in a different way. It's off from medicine. It's more about advocacy, fundraising, and other legal issues, and fighting for a bill. And like, so that's very interesting because it also grows, makes you a different person from inside. Also, it changes your own character, honestly, because you work with a big team all the time, right? So that's why. So those things were very new, and they actually asked about those exact things in my interview as well. So whatever you showcase over there, they will ask you.
Mm.
And they know about your things, they know what the application is like, and they will ask you on those things. And then in the end, mostly they'll ask you about your hobbies. And I would recommend not using the generic ones. They're like writing, reading, watching a show is not an hobby. I'm sorry,
Mm.
everybody over here. It's not a hobby. If it is your hobby, then you have to be deep into it. If you
Mm.
say that you like watch TV shows, you have to be like in depth about the show's director, how you love the scenic display of things, like that, because otherwise they don't take you seriously. And for me, luckily, I have a very like I would say fitness-based background. So I do like track and field. I've done like multiple Ironman triathlons, like a half Ironman triathlon. I do like weightlifting. I'm learning bouldering. So I have like multiple things to like share. And
Mm.
most often you would see that people in the US are very fit, who are at least interviewing us, and they have some fitness background.
Mm.
And so you can easily like connect with them very
Mm.
fast because it's like I work out, you too, wow, I love you, come to my program. It's like that. So it's kind of funny. So yeah, you just talk about what you do in a very in-depth way. You just can't say one word and that's done.
Mm.
Explain, give examples, give stories, because that's very, very important for application, like for
Mm.
people to judge you. Because these things display your character and how you function as a normal human being outside of hospital or work.
Mm.
And if they see this person has a good coping mechanism, he or she is strong mentally, or even if not, if they have their own skills close to family, what they do, they cook or not, it makes you more human. And then because I have seen people who have amazing scores, but then they portray themselves as very studious, nerdy people only, and that's their USP, that's their forte. They won't match. People won't take you for just that. It's kind of sad because I'm sure those people have put in the hard work to get over there, but people over here want something else. That's why when these things come into play, I would just say one word, that interviewing or selling yourself is an art that you have to master and go over yourself multiple times to be a good storyteller, because it's an art. Like, you cannot just know these things and how to sell yourself. You have to learn these skills. So you cannot just be a studious person and expect to match in a program. You cannot do that.
Mm.
So yeah, that's one thing. And after all these things, I matched at Yale last year. So that was pretty interesting. And I'm just really happy because this program is so academically inclined. Like, everybody has to present papers or like their work since day one, or like topics, and it's very obviously Yale being Yale, it's very academically driven for sure. But even clinically, we have such high surgical volume because Yale is a bigger center, and
Mm.
other hospitals send people to Yale. So we are exposed to a bit of more high risk stuff than other places, which is great for us because if I ever leave this place and go outside as a fellow, as a generalist, or do calls outside as an attending, I need those high risk training that other places might not have.
Mm.
So it's a good place to go into. And again, it's tough. I got lucky in some way. I also had my hard work to help me, but there's also like luck playing a factor for me coming over here as well. And the reason I mentioned luck is to digress into something very, very important for you guys is the visa issues. So people don't know about certain visas, which is or this process. It's actually make or break. So what happened with me? I was a J1 research scholar before, and while I was working, over here, and then I had to go to a J1 physician visa, like be a physician over here, right? Like that's the way it works for every other field. Now, what nobody told me, or I wasn't told, I wasn't aware that ECFMG, they don't sponsor J1 physician for IMG applicants who apply for prelim OBGYN. So it is a very niche rule that nobody knows about, nobody has ever heard, because nobody has ever matched into OBGYN on a prelim spot before me. So I was the one who knew about this, and I was so scared. As soon as I matched, I called ECFMG, ECGME, uh, then NRMP. I called all these people every single day to ask that please give me the visa, please, please, please. And they said no. It's a policy. And when I asked them why, they have no reasoning. It's a policy made decades ago, and it can't be changed. And I'm like, damn. So then now I'm stuck. The next option was H1B. Again, why do I love Yale is because even though they only sponsor J1 for IMGs, after I told them like J1 can't be given to me by ECFMG, they were okay with H1B as well. So them tweaking the rules for me was a big deal. I know like this program is so welcoming and so warm that they want to change their policies for me, which is great. I love them already. But if you know about the 2-1-2 home country rule that you get after getting J1, so yeah. So, and you know that the Indian government does not waive it off for us. So, if anybody over here or who will see this webinar, if you are on J1 before, you cannot get H1B, no matter what you do, because there is a policy. If people don't know on the website that the J1 waiver, the 2-1-2 home country rule, won't be waived off for doctors, which we are. So everybody else, like everybody else who has a J1 before, like PhDs, engineers, everybody can get it waived off, but us. So H1B is out as well. Now imagine I'm at a spot, I've matched into Yale, I have no J1, I have no H1B. And I was told by one of the lawyers over here that Animesh, it seems tough, let the match go and go back to India. And I'm like, what? I worked so hard to come over here, and now you say because the only option is to like let the match go and apply next all over again into a non-prelim spot for the J1 position. And I'm like, no, I worked my ass off to come over here. I cannot just like let my dream go and I apply all over again, going back to India because even my visa was expiring that month, and I was done with my work in the lab as well. I had to go back to India, and I'm like, no, I just cannot. So the other option was O1. If you know about the O1 visa or if people know about O1 visas over here, basically. So I don't want to gloat or toot my own horn, but O1 stands for Extraordinary Ability Visa. So it means that I have to prove on paper that America needs me in a very layman's like language. America needs my expertise and I need to be over here for this country to grow as a nation. So but O1 is so tricky, it is so niche, and it is extraordinary ability for a reason because the things they asked for on the visa is so complicated. And other things that luckily I was a little earlier on. I began my visa process very early. I had to hire a lawyer, and because it has to be, it needs a lawyer for sure, and the hospital has to sponsor it for you. So they have to agree. So I had a meeting with them, like this is something called as O1, and nobody knows what O1 is because they don't know about H1B or J1 as well. So how would they know about O1 stuff, right? So I told them this is the only visa I can get before I can have a job over here. And they're like, okay, let's support you. So they supported me for the O1 visa as well. So they gave me their support letter. But I will share a link later on how to apply for O1 or what O1 exactly is. It's there on Google if you just search. But basically, it needs at least 7 letters from people in the country who are OBGYNs at a very high position in research.
Got it.
So they have to be well known, well published, well cited, and only those people can write letters for me, and
Hmm.
not just write letters that he's a great guy. They have to mention that, they have to like cite my work, my papers in their in the letters. So like, yeah, I came across Animesh's work and he's amazing and all those things, like, and it has to be more than 1,000 words each letter. So it's like a three-page letter from seven people across the country who have to vouch for me that how I am a great candidate to be in this country. And after I did that, I had to fulfill four other criteria to be eligible for the O1A visa, which is again too much, and then apply. And then I got the visa. So I'm on right now on O1A visa. It's a 3-year visa. It is a little better than H1B because it makes your application for green card a little faster.
Hmm.
So through H1B, it's like almost 10 years or plus.
Yes.
Through O1, it's only 3 to 4 years.
Oh.
So that's a good jump. Yeah, from like 12 to like 3 years, right? Exactly. Four
Hmm.
times like shorter. So I would recommend, basically, long story short again, that if you are applying for any specialty for prelim or for non-prelim, search it beforehand, because these rules can just come up to your face, and you're done then. You're just scared
Hmm.
as hell. So you need to know about these things. And if you are applying for OBGYN in this country, do not apply to prelim OBGYN, please. You will be extremely stressed. That's where I say my luck worked is in this application.
Hmm.
Matching was completely easier, honestly, than my visa. Visa was so stressful that I honestly think like my luck worked over here, because it's about the person reading my application who's not a doctor.
Exactly.
Somebody is sitting in Vermont in the embassy, and
Hmm.
if they have a bad day, they will deny my visa. It's done. So it's all about luck. So that's why I say like my luck worked is because I got the O1 visa.
Hmm.
So if you're applying for the OBGYN prelim, to not apply for that spot. I would say apply to OBGYNs in general in this country. There are many spots that are non-prelim spots as well. So
Hmm.
apply to them for a categorical spot, but not OBGYN prelim. It's very difficult, honestly. So, but yeah, so that's my story so far. I got the visa, I matched over here, and now I'm a resident. I finished 1 year like yesterday of my first year residency, and I start from Monday again. So, yeah, yeah.
Good. Really.
I think I spoke a lot. I'm so sorry. I think I crossed the time limit as
No,
well,
no, no,
but it
it's
was
all
really
right.
fun to
It's all
talk.
right. We dedicated a lot of time to the Q&A session as well. Like, as long as you can speak, like 1 hour could be fine. So,
Yeah.
but hearing your story, it seems like it was so much hard work and it was such a marathon. Like you had to like face a lot of things. And this visa thing, I've never heard. Like obviously, I'm just a recent graduate. I'm still learning about the process, but
Yeah.
this seems like a very tricky platform to like deal with and everything. But we're really like glad to have had this session somehow because we got to learn so much about the specific things that we need to do for the emails, cold
Yeah.
opening. Like it's a question that almost every applicant asks, like, are we supposed to email 500 emails? Like, yes, we are supposed to. That's
I know. I know. Yeah.
the only way.
Yeah.
So, like
Yeah.
it was really a very enlightening session for me as well, even though I'm not intending to apply for OBGYN, but we have a lot of applicants who are interested in the branch. And I think we have a lot of questions as well from them. So if it
Yeah.
seems fine, we can go ahead with the questions.
Yeah. I'm gonna just start like reading out loud. The first one on my chat is Harvi Shah. They're asking, is there any other way to join in Gynac other than steps and doing residency, provided I've done residency in India plus 2 years experience? Uh, Sadly, Harvey, there is no other way to join OBGYN over here, even though you have finished MS OBGYN in this country. Firstly, it's a big deal. You are amazing to finish OBGYN in India, so that's good. But no, you have to give all the steps, interview, apply, and then come through the normal process to be a resident over here all over again. I know it sounds tricky, but I also know people who have done this in the US who are like MS OBGYNs from India who came over here and did the residency all over again, which is okay. If you want to do it, if you want to come to the US, that's the only way. And also for fellowships, if you want to apply, you need to do all the steps and apply for a fellowship again. So even that's something that people don't know about.
Mm.
But even for fellowship, because some people want to just do fellowships in the US and they do the MD in India or any other country, and they have to give steps, all the step 1, 2, and 3 before they can apply for a fellowship in the US. So yes, the answer is the question, Harvey. Dr. Surbi Batra, does step 3 score matter for fellowship later on? I would say no. I would say more than average or average is totally fine. But I would say at least get around the average range. When they show you that report, the whole Gaussian curve. So be in between of that and not low. And that will definitely help you. It doesn't matter so much. It's mostly for H1B eligibility, the step 3 score. So it doesn't matter a lot. But definitely, if you have a good score, you have a higher chance, but not completely true. It matters where you have worked, what you have done your work in, and your experience in stuff before, or even research. Patel Henel has mentioned how to find electives of OBGYNs for family medicine. I don't know that question's answer. I'm sorry. Uh, this is a very niche question. Like, you want to find electives for OBs in family medicine. I don't know. I'm sorry. You can obviously, like, the first thing I would say, like, go to the program's website and find family medicine, and then find their coordinator, and then email them that you want to do an OB rotation in family medicine at your hospital. So like that. That will actually help you. Yeah.
Hmm.
Aparna's iPhone is saying how to find non-accredited fellowships in California state. I finished my residency in pediatrics and looking for research positions on non-accredited fellowships in California. Hmm. That is tricky because even I don't even know there are programs that are not ACGME certified for fellowships in this country, because you have to have, so if you want to have a degree after finishing a fellowship or even a residency, it needs to be ACGME certified. So I have no idea that there are programs like this in the US, to be honest. And also, you finish the things in PEDS before looking for a position for research. Again, I would recommend, if you're looking for a position for research, always apply for the ECGME certified program, because their letters and the programs will have more higher impact than other programs, for sure. Ms. Thakkar has asked, can you please explain in difference between prelim and categorical position for OBGYN? Is the prelim position also OBGYN or general surgery? Good question. Uh, so basically, prelim for OBGYN is either gen surgery or OBGYN. It's where you apply. So I applied for only prelim OBGYN, so I only got that. But if you apply for prelim general surgery or prelim OBGYN, you can get either of them. But that's it. You wouldn't go to any other field. You wouldn't go to IM or anesthesia or any other fields that have this extra 1 year. You will only match into Gen Surg prelim or OBGYN prelim. Again, Ms. Harvi Shah, did you know your internship in India? Did you know your internship in India? Which year you passed MBBS? That's a little different question, but I knew my internship in India, I guess. And which year I passed MBBS? I passed MBBS in 2020. So almost like 4 years ago. Wow,
Mhm.
time flies. Lastly, Ms. Harvi Shah, if I have no visa issues, suppose have green card, then prelim OBGYN is good to go. Uh, Wait a sec. Let me just read this once again. Uh, if you have a green card, you'll definitely have a higher chance of matching than me, to be honest, because that is in the list of hierarchy, you are in between, and we are on the lowest bottom of the list. So you will have a good shot at matching into prelim OBGYN, also categorical OBGYN as well, because they do consider this as well on their checklist, honestly. Yeah. Dr. VSN, can you work in USA if you just come for fellowship? No, you cannot. You need to give the steps all over again to have a working license, because if you think about it, USMLE stands for Medical Licensing Exam. So you will only get a license once you work, give the exams that time. So you cannot work otherwise. Sorry. Julie, I mean, would you have any idea of how many years of fellowship are required to be eligible to work as an OBGYN in the US? Hmm. So, I guess you mean that fellowships in India or anywhere else, or to work as an OBGYN? You don't need fellowship anywhere else to work as a gynecologist in the US. You just like me. I did had nothing. I wasn't an MD or an MS. I just came with MBBS, did my research fellowship. Oh, you mean to say fellowship in research? Maybe she means that. She means like fellowship in research. I think so. I guess
I'm not
what
sure.
I did.
Could be.
That's fine. Yeah. So basically, you don't need fellowship in general, but if you're thinking about research, I would say at least more than a year or 2 years to be have a good shot at being a good applicant before you apply for the OBGYN in the US. Ms. Shifa is asking, is it possible to get a match in surgical specialty with a research work in the US? Sadly, no, you cannot. If you have contacts, maybe yes. If not, then you have to spend years in research before you apply for a surgical specialty. Sorry about that. Miss Kaur, after pass or fail step one, which step two scores stand out good for matching process? Depends. Uh, Internal medicine, 230 to 240 is more than enough. Uh, Anything that's surgical, 245 to 40 and above should be good enough, honestly. Yeah. iPhone 4. As a second year MBA student, are there any research electives available in the US? And if there are, how do we apply to them and how to strengthen your CV to get in time, like get into them? Okay. Basically, you're actually very early on in the process, which is good, but you're very, very early. Like even if you apply right now, you can't go to these places, it's like that. But there are places in the US that offer electives that are like research based. I know one, it's in Johns Hopkins, so you can apply over there. They actually take people as well. Other places I have no idea. It wasn't a thing back in the day. It's becoming a very cool thing right now. So I don't know about that exactly, but John Hopkins has that. So that just email them once you have a chance when you are at the level of applying because you're very early on in the process. Okay, I guess this is it. Bahul, would there be opportunities for remote research, and how can I approach them? Same thing like before. You actually cold email everybody from India and you're like, hey, I want to work with you remotely. So instead of like asking for working with them in the lab, ask them, can you work on the projects remotely? Same thing, same emailing style, and just ask them to work remotely across the country. That's it. Can you help me contact them? I'm sorry, I can't do that right now, but maybe you can just email me. It's animesh.upadhyay@yale.edu. That's my email address. I'll just put it in the chat actually. One sec.
Mhm. That would be helpful to a lot of people.
Oh yeah. Yep. And Dr. Devanshi Rawal is asking, sorry, one second, it's also somebody else. Uh, I think there's so many questions coming in right now. One second. Akshita, you have asked that. Okay, thank you. Great. Lastly, just one last question. Devanshi Rawal, hello, could you please give guidance on how to apply for positions? I already did. Go back on the webinar and see once again. I have 4 years of clinical experience in India as MBBS, out of which 2 years is in ICU, but I've one research through ICMR. A month ago to Canada as PR and want to go to. Okay, thanks, Devanshi. Uh, yeah, just email me with like a more thorough question, and I can definitely help you with this. And I guess this is it for now. Is it okay if we stop?
Yes, so that will
Great.
be fine because I know a lot of people have a lot of questions, but you
Yeah,
can anytime like email in a way that you might have learned today, maybe like cold email in a better way. That could
sure.
that could be really a good way for everybody to like explore their cold emailing skills. And thank you so much for taking out the time to like answer all these questions and
Of
inspiring
course.
lot of future OBGYN applicants and residents. I'm sure people really, really got inspired by your story and your application process. And we really look forward to seeing everything that you achieve in the future.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you for having me over here. It's really, really glad to be here today. I want to inspire so many people because it's a very scary journey. I had
Mhm.
nobody when I was applying. So it's really important to help
Mhm.
people. So,
Yes, so thank you
yeah,
so much.
of course. Thank you. Bye, guys. Thank you so much once again. Yeah.